WildC.A.T.s, issue 1, Matthew Rosenberg writing with Steven Segovia on the art. AKA, we know nothing about these characters, so let's see what they can do in one issue to make us scared.
Yeah. Well, and we did read the Grifter story in Urban Legends.
Yes,
so we have a little bit of familiarity.
We know Grifter, that's true.
Yeah, and Zealot. So other than that, I feel like if I tried to research any of this would drive me insane because there's a lot going on here and a lot that seems familiar. Just from my bare bones knowledge of the WildC.A.T.s. So I restrained myself from researching anything.
Sure.
All I know is that Fairchild is a Gen 13 character. And I remember her showing up in the New 52, I want to say in Superboy. And she was a scientist type that, was kind of She-Hulk level where she wouldn't turn into like a Hulk, but she could grow her body to be bigger and have more power. But yeah, other than that, this throws you right into the action. And it almost does feel like you probably should have read that Grifter story. Before reading this.
I think the Grifter story definitely helped me because at least I knew Grifter well enough to kind of have him as a through line. And it starts with this funny bit where he's like, we're getting this story at the start that talks about this alien race that went to war with another alien race and they've been at war forever. But it turns out in the next page that this is just him bullshitting as a bet with Zealot to see if he can convince someone if this story is real. And he does it later on in the issue, but what's funny is later on he's basically describing the plot of Deceased. Which I thought gave me a chuckle. So it's got a sense of humor, which is nice. I think. Yeah, to go.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that I don't really know these other characters all that well, and you got Zealot and you got what was the other guy's name?
Zealot, Deathblow.
Deathblow, that was it. The guy who runs gives them the orders is Marlowe. He's the little guy who is their boss. So I don't know any of these characters, but I will say this issue, okay, they need a scientist. They go into this terrorist place, which is the Hive Lab, and because the scientists are supposed to be there to sort of kidnap or recruit or whatever you want to call it, because he tortures a chimp and kills it as part of his experiment, Grifter says, "Oh, F this," and just shoots him in the head. And they're all pissed at him. And then there's a funny punchline where Nightwing and Cassandra Cain jump in and say, "Wait, why are all the terrorists already dead? What's going on?"
Yeah.
So, I'll say this. It gave me a sense of character. It did feel very 90s in a lot of ways. Their boss, Marlowe, the way he was kind of yelling at them felt very old school. It felt like the angry police captain yelling at the cops who've caused a lot of damage.
Cole Cash has a lot of rigs in him.
Sure, yeah.
I had to make sure I was remembering who was Riggs and who was Murdoch before I said that. But yeah, he's got a lot of rigs in him, just constantly pissing Marlowe off, and I did appreciate that.
But we also have these other characters who are back at the base. Maxine, who's the comms one, and then we have the character who's in the spacesuit who apparently contacts an entity called the Void that lets them jump around in space and time, or maybe not time, but in space anyway. So I was like, okay, this is making me think of a character from Black Hammer of all things, but so basically Grifter ends up finding where other scientists are by talking to a guy in a bar. There's a nice little moment where he gets into this fight with these guys who know who he is, and they insult his brother, his dead brother, which I was happy that I knew about this from his story in Urban Legends, because it was some nice context. But there's a moment where he looks over his shoulder and it's like his brother's standing there and he talks to him, but he's not really there. It's just a little it was a good little moment, but
it was
so he basically says to the boss, "Hey, look, I found out where more scientists are." He's like, "Okay, go get one," and it just cuts to them in this shootout, and they're all pissed they had to bring the kid, Fairchild, who ends up saving their ass ultimately, but they're all pissed that they had to bring this kid with them. The action looks pretty, Segovia's art, I'd say, is pretty solid.
For sure.
There's some fun stuff here. There's this interesting gimmick with Fairchild where she'll get big and she'll get bulletproof and she can wreck things for about 30 seconds, but then she'll crash and have a nap. So they end up having to carry her out from there. Yeah,
and then at one point they're like, "Just wake her up and have her punch a hole through the floor." And Chris was like, "Wait, we can wake her up after this?" So I just like that they're flying by the seat of their pants.
Yeah, there's a Green Arrow cameo because they're based in Star City, so there's a Green Arrow cameo where they have to try and dodge him. I love that there's no dialogue from Green Arrow, really. It's just he fires some arrows at him, so off in the distance.
Yeah. And they're like, we got a Justice League, and they're like, which one? The Robin Hood looking guy. All right, well, he shouldn't be too much of a problem as he fires an arrow through the door. Thought that was pretty fun. But yeah, you can tell Rosenberg really likes this property by, because like I don't know who a lot of these characters are, but I can feel that there's a lot of care taking into them. So like the Void, I do remember something with the Void. It is their teleportation, and it acts through people. So this person that's running it right now, might not be the same person.
Yeah.
In a couple issues or whatever, but just the idea of that concept, them using that as the back door or whatever. It also kind of reminded me of Midnighter from what I've read with Midnighter has access to the ghost door and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of reminded me of that too.
I think it's a pretty solid first issue, and despite the fact that there was a lot of characters and a lot of things going on, it felt like a TV pilot where, okay, I don't get all of these characters yet, but I got enough personality that they kind of bounced off each other well enough, and the action scenes were kind of fun. That I left this thinking I could probably read some more of this. I could probably enjoy it maybe. Depending where it goes. Like, the Grifter story in Urban Legends was mostly entertaining. Like, the ending was a bit weird because it kind of like pivoted into just showing up more WildC.A.T.s characters, but this won't have that problem because it's already a WildC.A.T.s book. So, so the ending though is when they go through the floor, they basically fall into a pit of a cult. It looks like they're not Court of Owls, but they're kind of Court of Owls-esque, and they've all got hoods and white masks on.
Yep. Yeah, definitely looks like Court Owls.
But it's not like Court Owls, though.
No, but that's what it looks like. So I got a little bit confused for a hot second. Then I remember they're not in Gotham; they're in Star City. No,
right? Their masks are more like they're almost like bunny, or maybe bunny faces, maybe. Possibly.
Not quite sure, but yeah, that's where they end up. And
I don't know. But yeah, so they fall down there. I don't quite know how Deathblow works yet, but he kind of like his body gets destroyed in this issue. But I think that means it's okay. It's just expensive to replace him.
Well, and then that's when Marlowe shows up with his bodyguard. It looks like the character Spartan, who I remember from the 90s, who was like an android type character. So I'm wondering if he'll pop in as a member of the team,
maybe, yeah,
or maybe as Deathblow's replacement or whatever. They'll put Deathblow in the android or whatever. I'm not too sure, but yeah, they didn't seem to worry when Deathblow got shot like 2 or 3 times.
No, they said
they just kept on with the mission.
No, they said that's the 3rd body that he's ruined this month, which is a record. Yeah. So it sounds like they just replace his body every time he dies, but it costs money, kind of thing. Which is interesting. I mean, again, this is the sort of thing. If you're an old school WildC.A.T.s fan, this is probably all just known second nature to you. To me, this was all like, okay, what's going on? Who are these different characters? What can they do? Who's your daddy? What does he do? That kind of thing. So, I don't know.
Yeah, so it says here when I just pulled him up that he has accelerated healing factor and psychokinesis. I didn't get that vibe from here. I felt like he was a Deathstroke type, right? Like maybe the healing factor at play. But yeah. But no, he was cool. I liked him a lot. He bounced off of Grifter super well. I like seeing Fairchild because that is the one character outside of Grifter that I'm pretty familiar with at this point. So yeah. But no, it's I'm glad that Rosenberg was able to parlay, that Grifter story in Urban Legends into a WildC.A.T.s book, even if it's just a limited series. I'm sure Jim Lee being the publisher now of DC.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that helped.
Was it a hard sell for Rosenberg? So
is this a 12-issue series?
I believe so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because it says limited on the cover. So
I was trying to remember if it was 6 or 12, but I feel like it was 12. I could be wrong though.
It's paced like it's 12.
Yeah.
Right? Like it I also love the relationship with Grifter and Zealot, where he is like, yeah, her name is Xana, or because no one that calls her Zealot lives long enough. you know. So that's what I call her.
Zealous is easy to remember though, so that's what I'm going to call her.
Right. So, but no, it's a whole lot of fun and stuff with his brother. But yeah, and you can tell that Rosenberg has an affinity because I just remembered Grifter showing up with Ollie in Vampires. Right, he's at the blood farm. So you know, a lot of fun. I'm gonna keep going.
Sounds good. Mm-hmm. What are you rating WildC.A.T.s?
I'm gonna give this a. Let's go 7.5.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.